It's very global. You have New York. Eliaz, I'm Paul Aversano with A&M in New York. You got Tony.
Pleased to meet you, Paul.
Pleased to meet you. Tony in the Middle East, you in Tel Aviv. This is truly global.
I'm bridging between you guys.
Yes. So the last time we saw each other was a couple of years ago in London, and we had Italian, right? Didn't we eat Italian?
Exactly. Yes. Actually, in 2 weeks' time, I'm in London.
How were you able to get back to London? Do you have a London passport?
I found yesterday a flight. I booked a ticket with the low cost because British is not flying, Alali is not flying, EasyJet not flying yet. I hope I'll get there, hopefully not for quarantine.
No, but you got to get there before a certain date. Otherwise, you got to quarantine for 14 days, right? I think that's the rule.
There is not a date yet, as much as I know.
Yeah, it's not a date yet. So if you do it fast enough before they come up with a date, you get there in time.
So I pray hard.
Where's home for you, Eliaz? Where's your home?
Depends where the plane is landing normally, but in the last few years, it's between Tel Aviv and London.
Okay.
I moved 10 times internationally.
Ooh.
I did business in 40 countries in my lifetime. Each one in with companies for a long time. So Tony probably knows a little bit about it because I worked with an Israeli company I moved a few times, and I worked with Sahali Corporation. I did 6 jobs in 11 years, then with Sun Capital, then with another private equity in Italy. And for the last 10 years or so, I'm on boards, advisory roles, board in Sri Lanka, Turkey, USA, Israel, and some innovation company in the UK as well.
Wow.
Trying to do 3D printing. So all in all, I did business in 40 countries. I'm not selling myself, I'm just giving you just the scope I was exposing to, because I think for the comments I'm going to share with you, or thoughts as you guys requested, you can understand where it's coming from and feel comfortable to challenge me on those. I mean, I don't have a problem, but
no, Tony and I,
we are not getting older. We're just gaining experience in life.
Tony and I talk. We think we travel a lot. I think you got us beat.
I think Eliaz will have us beat. He's
got us beat.
Eliaz, Paul's got what? How many miles a year you average?
I average about 250,000 flight miles a year, almost for the last 10 years, running a global transactions business at A&M. But this year it's down to 0, and I don't think it's going back to 250,000, although my wife would probably like it to.
So you guys want to share my views, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's start with just, how has this thing affected you personally, living in Israel and in Tel Aviv, and then how is that different from you think people that you've been in contact with, and then definitely let's move into the area of supply chain and Sri Lanka, that business, China, what's going to happen, the global supply chain, what's going to happen to demand for the folks that they produce for, and then just your philosophical thoughts generally. I always enjoy speaking together because I learn so much from how you look at the world and the perspective you have. So I thought it'd be useful to share that perspective with others.
Pleasure, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to share and potentially influence as much as you like. If you allow me, Tony, let me go the other way around. Let me go from 30,000 feet and then zooming more specific or certain domain, because I think it's more easy and logical to understand how this translates, right? So I'll start with my views of the background, and I have to admit, this is not from today, from all the inputs. I'm almost shared it in few boards I'm in for months and a half or so from the beginning. So for me, COVID-13 created 3 main waves that go out one after the other, but with a certain overlapping. The wave number 1 is the medical. The wave number 2 is the economy. And the wave number 3 is that we just can start to smell, not even to feel, is what I call the social and political that will come as round three. Like a stone in the water, it's going on the loops one after the other. So,
as I said, you're going to give us this philosophical expressions that I'm going to remember. It's true. You're absolutely right. Yeah. What's the three steps ahead of us? So
medical. So as you know, I'm not an expert. I don't think we're hearing enough. We can see what it is. I would say unknown enemy. And as you know, I practiced my first. This is for you, Paul. I was a lieutenant colonel in the Israeli army. This is my first profession in life. So I used to fight, but normally intangible enemy. Here we have an intangible enemy that we learn a lot as we move forward. We saw the impact in different countries. I think we start to understand that still it's a biting enemy, but it's not a disastrous for whatever it's present. Different countries apply different strategies with different results. I don't go to the details because I think we're listening. If you want, we can drill more to this and I can share with you the Israeli experience, even the Sri Lankan experience, which is extremely well. 9 people died until now with less than 1,000 people in a country of 22 million people.
Wow.
Because they applied 100% curfew from day one. Even food, it was by push, not by pull. They didn't want people to go to the shop and queue. So they sent trucks with food to the people, etc., etc. So we can look into it. I think it's got to be under control. And this is the waves that start to, I would say, vaporize, maybe wave 2, maybe winter. It's probably going to stay with us for some time. But I would say this is the easy one. Because at the end of the day, it's trouble us. But I can tell you as a bottom line, when we track the number of deaths in Israel in the Corona period, when we've been in curfew, less people died every week than in a normal week in previous year. Year on year, less people died because no car accident, less work accident, less annoyment, less bar, restaurant issues, bottom line. And if I need to link to it, this is Israel. Average age of people that die was 82. And normally, people passed away in Israel 82. So just to tell you, it's a big wow, but the bottom line was not so bad. So I moved to the second one, which I think is the one that we are, all of us, globally in. This is the economic impact, which is major, which is global, which is multi-category. This is impacting everybody, everywhere, on everything. I don't think anybody can say that his life today is the same that it was 3 months ago or last year on the same time. The consumption generally is down, saving is going up. I think the level of confidence is low, and this creates a lot of mindset and behavior. I think global trade, we can see, and we'll speak about it, is on the way down. Local and regional will pick up to certain domains, certain industries. Again, I'm not apparel. I speak like economist. As such, we can see one big economic impact globally. I call it the tech impact, the technology impact. Because e-commerce, e-medical, e-banking, e-training, e-lecturing, everything.
E-meetings like this, e-webinars.
Everything. Zoom couldn't have a better marketing. So all the technology and electronic got a boost. The billions of dollars in marketing, what Corona did to them. Corona promoted the technology in a way that nobody can imagine. We understand that this will impact a lot of other domains as a second wave, because, for example, class of trade will change. I mean, it changed before, but the pace of change is different, right? So, for example, the department store phenomenon is in decline. This I can speak from Europe, at least for the last 20, 25 years, except of El Corte Inglés in Spain, all Europe, we know in America. but now it will be a bigger boost. I just finished a board 2 hours ago. I'm doing advisory to a supplier to Walmart, quite a big one. And Walmart is speaking to bring brands to the offer now in apparel. Brands that never wanted to be in Walmart.
Really?
Walmart considering to bring no brand. I won't go to
Eliaz,
details.
What price point? What price point?
It's about offer, meaning they understand that the class of trade of department store of high value merchandise probably going, I won't say vaporize, but shrink big time for all the good reason you know. I don't have to tell you that. And they believe that consumer will be open to buy things that yesterday they didn't buy. Let me tell you the other way around. Branded products, champion. If you will be in Walmart or Target, you can't go to Macy's department store. Tell me where you want to be. In France, in Europe, it was similar. If you are in Carrefour or Auchan, you can't go in Galeries Lafayette or Printemps, right? So decide where you want to be. But when this class of trade is shrinking, you can be everywhere. But we'll come to it. And there is one phenomenon that we don't know, but it's still a major economic factor. For me, is the inflation. I believe that around 10, 12, 15 trillion dollar will be injected to the market in the Western world. What the impact of this will be on value of money, inflation. I know in 2008-9, we didn't see the inflation coming, although a lot of money went to the market. Will we stay the same? Did we pass a critical point? Nobody knows for all the different reasons. But again, I want to stay more Corona than generic economy. And
yeah, but that's an interesting point, because right now, you know, in some places in Europe, as I'm sure you know, there are negative interest rates, and the U.S. is more concerned about deflation than inflation right now. So it's interesting. I think over the longer term, you're right. With all this money that's being injected into the economy, you're going to see a potential risk for inflation down the road that we didn't see in the financial crisis. I think you're right.
And Paul, look what on 1929. Yep. I had a lecture at the cycle where money was not injected, and when it injected, hyperinflation, people lose control, lose confidence. Yep. And this is exactly brings me to the third loop, what I call social-political, that I believe it will come. It will come because I think the inequality will go up, the rich will be getting richer, the poor have nothing to lose, and the middle class will go down, degraded in the standard of life. I don't need to explain it, you know. I think the technologies that will come in, the robots, the system. I tell you, I'm the chairman of a company that sits in New York. The ladies probably will enjoy it. It's called Things, special underwear for period days. 6 weeks already, the office is closed. Everybody work from home. And the good news, we are 40% year on year up. Wow. So who needs offices now? Who needs secretaries? Who need, you understand all these things. So this will change also, will impact the labor marketplace, because there will be jobs that maybe are not needed anymore. I think that EU stability is in doubt because we saw what's going on. So here, I just heard today a very interesting lecture about globalization. So I'll say a few words on this because it was an interesting insight. It's a professor, a French lady that gave a speech on Zoom and a committee I'm linked to. She said, when we have a clear global leader, the Dutch, then the British, then the American after Second World War, globalization went up all the time. Global trade went up, agreement went up, etc. Where we are now, when we have a double-head leadership, China, America, this is a good formula to more chaotic situation. No doubt that globalization will shrink. How much, how quick, what reason, nobody knows. But my country first, you can see it. And if you take, who is going to get the ventilation machine? Israel bought in Germany. Germany put an embargo. You can't export it because my people first. And equipment and all the PPE. People bought equipment. We went to the airport. it was stopped on airport. No, it doesn't leave the country. So everybody start to fight for itself. And a lot of questions coming now, even in Europe. If every country for itself in crisis time, why we are together? What does it mean, what you call the continent certification of responsibility, etc.? What it means for the future? Mainly the Spanish and the Italian, they paid the high price, right? Nobody came to help them. Everybody closed the border. And still, a lot of countries you can't go in. So this will create a lot of impact because a country like Bangladesh, it's export about $34 billion a year. So every month is about $3 billion export. This year, I don't have to tell you, we'll come to it after, we'll speak supply, but I speak from the human side. These people can do agriculture or textiles, that's it. If you're going to unemploy hundreds of thousands of people, what's it going to do? It's unrest. The countries are very poor to support them. They can't print dollars like you have in the States. The local kerosene doesn't mean anything. So a lot of instability, people will look for populist leadership, and you can take it forever. And unfortunately, we don't have the Churchill or Eisenhower or the kind of leadership. And I'm not speaking politics now. I'm thinking key people that can drive an agenda, that get confidence and trust, what you call leadership. People will follow you. We don't have on the scale. So this may create a lot of instability. China-US relation, if Trump stays in job, no doubt that he's going to sort of painful divorce, let's call it. So still we have some linkage, but everybody will try to defend its own interest. And it creates a lot of problems that will move around and will impact globally. So when I look on these three waves, that, as I said, it has certain overlapping, I think it's like an earthquake. It's not like a fire in the woods, in the forest. Because once the trees burn, it will recreate itself in a few years' time. When you have earthquake, the pace of the land will not be the same as before the earthquake. What it will be, nobody really knows. What will be the new normality, we don't know. But what I think, when I see the scale, the scope, the issue that we touch in highlights, because each one, you can have an election on it, I believe that we are in a story here of at least 2 to 3 years, at least. And only maybe by 2023 will be like 2019. There is a huge wake up of resources, a lot of cutback of activity. It will take time to regenerate. I'm not saying everything is dark. We'll come to it. There is also opportunities and options. But the scale, the scope is huge. And allow me to quote the CEO of Ford. I don't know if you see what he said, right? He said, I had a lot of contingency plan in my drawer for adjusting the light, but nobody prepared me for switching on the master switch, right? The switch off. So suddenly everything stopped. All your supply chain, all your lean, all your model, suddenly it's all out. So what do you do? How do you manage, etc.? So this is kind of my overview, not trying to be pessimistic, being realistic. By the way, Paul, you know how you define a pessimistic, right?
No, how?
It's an optimistic with experience. So,
Paul, you may not have enough experience because you're an optimistic guy, Paul.
I don't know. It's debatable. I'm a realist. I'm a realist.
You're a realist.
But one, I guess I'd like to ask you just one question.
Please ask as much as you want. It's all
at a high level. Okay, at a high level, what would you say is the most important thing that you are advising the companies that you work with to do to handle? And by the way, I agree with your analysis of the landscape. I mean, those 3 points, I think, were right on the money. Fully agree. So what would you say to those companies that you're advising at a high level, the most important thing is for them to do to navigate this landscape? What would be the takeaway?
Timely decision. What does it mean? You have to plan, forget your long-range plan that whatever everybody has. We had one in Sri Lanka, let me just say in parentheses, so I'll use it as an example to answer you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the board, my 11th year in MAS Holding. It's a over $2 billion company that employ about 100,000 people, manufacturing in 9 countries, supplying Nike, Lululemon, Victoria's Secret, PVH, etc. Right? So my message was, put realistic assumption, make key decision how you're going to bridge these 2-3 years, and take action. Don't try to be nice for the past relation. Be honest for all stakeholders with the future horizon. Because the past we can't change, we can only impact the future. So don't delay. Nobody knows the truth. It's all exogenous parameters. There is not a written truth that somebody knows. Everybody is guessing. So what do you do when you under risk? You squeeze yourself. You're adjusting. You reduce the area that the shrunkel can eat you, right? In the army, we're throwing ourselves on the ground, right? To take less hits. So for us, in this business, which is mainly private label, our customers know nothing. They know for the time being, they're losing business. And it's big time. It's dozens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars of market that vaporizing because people consume different, less, whatever. This is for me, just to go to pray. This is the only place you can pray is the funeral. But
So,
if you,
Eliaz,
if you want to believe in the future, and I'm not coming from Marsal and Alvarez, or I have enough advisor consulted in my life. Tony,
I never heard of that second firm. I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't hear that. I don't know who those guys are.
So, Paul,
Eliaz,
if you don't know competition, you never win, right?
Eliaz, question to you is, that's a good one. Paul knows the competition. He's always messages. Eliaz, the question here is, do you think that the luxury brands will do better because people will disposable income in terms of traveling and spending money and second homes and things that they used to do, they're not going to do. And so the luxury segment, I was reading today that in China, when the lockdowns came up, the luxury market took a big boost. Hermès, LV, all of these brands, because people want to spend money. People are the pent up money. What do you think about you mentioned the rich will get richer, the poor, and then there'll be a whole redefinition of the markets. Do you think that the upper segment will continue to march along as it's been marching?
I think it's a question of time slot, Tony. We are still within the shock wave. A lot of uncertainty. I'll give you testimony from Hong Kong. Malls are empty, very low traffic. Even restaurant, coffee shop closing down because no clients. That's from my friend Robert in Hong Kong. I spoke today to Istanbul, to my friends that have a big retail chain, right? So they start to open in the main street. Very low frequency of visiting, high conversion rate. So people buy because they need, not because it's fun. So I think in the first wave under shock, which probably will take from now to winter because everybody warn you, maybe there is a wave 2, be ready, you don't know. I would say generally people will be very cautious. Let's make sure that we put some money in case of, let's buy in case we need. I mean, Kimberly Clark, that is my partner in this business in the States, the toilet paper and all this stuff, they were overselling, right? They worry now what is kind of going to be used going forward rather what was consumed in the crisis time. I think things will settle down in 6 months or so. It will take some time. I think the rich will go back. The middle class will take more time to recover. So I'm not saying it's the end for luxury, but it's not just a temporary. I think it will take some time to recover. I don't think it will be quick recovery. I really don't think.
Here's an interesting data point. I'd love to get your take. So I spoke, Tony, to our team. We have a new team in Switzerland now, in Zurich, and I spoke to them earlier in the week. And Monday that just passed, they opened up Switzerland, and they're returning to schools and whatnot. And what they told me was that for luxury watches, high-end watchmakers on the streets of Zurich, since they had been closed for so many weeks, they said they had lines out the door of people waiting to get in on Monday when they first opened, and they actually sold out of many watches because of that pent-up luxury demand.
Yeah, I've been hearing the same thing. That's the way I asked the question to Eliaz. Yeah. Everything that I'm reading is that people are spending, and because they're not going to travel. You can't leave your country, so you can't go to the south of France from Switzerland. You can't go like you used to, and so you yes, in certain segments of the population, it's terrible. The U.S. has 20% unemployment. It's never had that even during the Great Depression. So that's going to be, dramatic.
Heading towards 30%.
And there's another number of businesses, as we talked about, that have done better in this crisis or have not been affected. In fact,
Tony,
many businesses?
There is another reason. Sorry.
Yeah.
Tony, maybe there is another reason. When you have cash now, what do you do with it?
Yeah.
Stock exchange, very dangerous. Volatility is very high.
No saving rates.
Look on the risk. The bonds, you get nothing.
Right.
As you said, you get negative interest rate on euro if you put in the bank.
Lynn,
maybe people tell you inflation is coming. So what do? I buy assets that has value. At least I have something tangible rather than to keep my money under my mattress, right?
Good point.
Well, no. In Switzerland, you put money in the bank, there's a negative interest rate.
Right.
You actually, when the last time I looked, you put money in there, it's going to cost you money to store the money. So I guess when that's the case, what do you do? I mean, gold shot up.
Yeah.
The commodities, it's all over the place with people are afraid given what's happened to oil prices with negative oil prices. So it is quite a landscape. And it was surprising to me too, when I read that of, wow, the luxury boutiques and the luxury brands are selling. They've got an uptick or selling out. And it's curfew time. So here, can you hear me?
Yeah, now we can.
Yes, now yes.
Yeah. My curfew. So in all of the UAE, at a certain point in time, they give you a warning on every cell phone that you got a half hour lead time because the curfew starts at 10 o'clock. So I've been in self quarantine. I can't wait to get out tomorrow. So tomorrow at 10 o'clock, we're all going to meet up, and I've been doing this for 2 weeks out here. But yes, that is going to be very, very interesting in terms of how that plays. I completely agree with you in terms of, the concern here is the social factors. You're going to have the south of Italy, the south of Spain, the southern regions of, even within a country, you're going to have the fortunate ones and the unfortunate ones. And unfortunately, this COVID crisis is hitting the less fortunate, both from a health perspective and an economic perspective. If you look at the rates, whether it's in the US or you look at in Europe, you look at in the Middle East, those that are more susceptible typically are going to be the low. They live in closer confinement. They're living in dwellings that are. I'm really surprised about what you say about Sri Lanka, because I would have thought places like India, Pakistan, these places where people are really living in very, very close proximity, that the virus would spread much faster.
But bear in mind one thing, Tony. It's not the only reason. Probably there is few reasons, people speaking climate, temperature, whatever. But I think one of the key driver is the society aging break.
Yeah.
In India and Sri Lanka, 50% of population below 25.
Yeah.
In Israel is about 30. Age 31 is the midpoint, right? When you're coming to Italy and Spain, you have much more aging society. So I can tell you in Israel, we had 16,500 people that got the corona, and only 15% were over 70 years old. But from this category, about 85% passed away.
Wow.
So it's really the corona, as we used to have sickness that relate to kids and babies. Here is what I call the corona that eat the elderly, or bringing the heritage to you quicker. So it's really eating big time the elderly people. That's kind of the difference here, at least at this stage. No kid died, nothing dramatic. Most of the young recovered, some quicker, some less, etc. But so it's really taping it. But it's created a lot of uncertainty. And I said for a long time, the economic human impact will be much higher than the medical pandemic impact. No doubt whatsoever.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's right.
Paul,
right.
when do you think, just switching over to the U.S., because you guys starting to lift? It's very hard to determine in the U.S. because everybody's doing something different. When are you going to start to travel?
Yeah, it's state by state, but in New York, that's the hottest of the hot zones. They just extended us here on lockdown. We're in week 9, and they extended it, I think, till around mid-June. The school was canceled for the rest of the year. People, even certain parts of the U.S. are talking about whether they even go back to colleges and universities in the fall, and whether they do that virtual or not. So I think it's unknown, to be honest with you. Now, certain parts of the U.S. are slowly opening, more rural, less populated areas, but they're monitoring them on a daily basis. And to the extent they see an increase in cases, they're going to shut it down immediately. So literally, it's daily monitoring. Wow. So we'll see. But personally, if you're asking me when I'm going to travel again, I don't know, but I would be surprised if it really was sometime in this calendar year. If for no other reason, even if things opened up, until there's a vaccine or some type of treatment, I think you touched on it, Eliaz, is the psychological impact of it. Do I want to be away somewhere where I'm quarantined or stuck with possibly suboptimal health care, away from my family? I just don't know. So time will tell. Clearly all non-essential travel will be canceled. We have no vacations or anything like that. Essential, we'll see. We'll see how you can control it. So time will tell.
Listen, aviation is the one that probably going to pay the highest price for this corona.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All this, when we know the optimization of this industry is plane in the air, not plane on the ground. Now everybody's in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And this is big money.
I think until you solve the health part of it, you can't fully get back to the economic side of it. You have to solve the health part to get the consumer. I mean, they just announced earlier this week, record low drop in consumer spending in the United States. And that's what drives GDP. That's what drives the economy. And if the consumer isn't spending, there's no way of coming back. And if they're not going to spend because of Corona, you got to solve the Corona issue first.
And 70% of US GDP is service oriented.
Consumer
right?
spending. Yep, absolutely. 70%.
It's about spending. So if no revenue, no spending.
Yep.
And because there is not central leadership about behavior, this is why this will take longer with higher price. Not for economy, for the health side. But I don't see anybody going to travel to America for tourism in 2020, right?
Right.
Only crazy people.
On top of all this, the U.S. has a presidential election in the fall. So that's going to add more uncertainty. And they couldn't be more diametrically opposed, positions. So who knows? But I like your quote, and I'm going to ask permission to use it. You need to shrink to avoid the shrapnel. I like that one. I'm going to borrow that from you.
Low to the ground.
I practice it. I can share with you a few of those, but anyhow, I think all what you said is right. I think also that if you want to travel tomorrow to America and you're not American, the insurance will charge you more than the travel cost.
Is that right?
Because if you go to America and you got it, it could be $500,000 or something. So who is going to pay for it, right? So it has a lot of application. So I don't know how much time you guys want to put, but I promise I'll go into different question or points that Tony raised. Tony, you asked about supply chain, right?
Yes.
So I will tell you, in the short-term supply chain, what we did in Sri Lanka, I take Sri Lanka as a model because I think that's the most important. First was about people. So immediately stop all, sending people home, taking care. The only limited facility work for protection equipment for the hospitals, producing, because it was a real curfew, and looking after people for about 6 weeks. And only phase 2, we start to come back to work. But what does it mean back to work? There is no orders, there is cancellations, there is delay. It's super chaotic situation. Nobody pays on time, everybody want to push 30, 60, 90 days. Who knows if you're going to see the money, when you see the money. It's like a domino effect. I'm not blaming anybody. Everybody want the next one on the value chain to finance his financial costs, right? With all the doubts that it has. So luckily, we did the right thing a few years back because I pushed a lot this risk management. I was more about tsunami, you know, what you call nature as a political hazard, what knows. We didn't prepare for this one, but never mind. That's what happened. So what we try now is to reorganize the supply chain. You know, all this physical distancing, I don't call it social because socially you want to be close, but physically you want to have this 2 meters, 2 yards, whatever everybody calls it, with protection and make sure that it's not going through in the contamination, although I don't think that it's a high probability. Adjusting capacity, decide what you need to carve out, things that you're ready to support when you've been a rich guy, probably you can't support when you are not so rich, or when you are in uncertainty. Even you don't manage risk, you're uncertainty. You don't know what you don't know, because nobody knows what's coming around the horizon, right? So we tried to reduce what we have. We took a very sharp cut at cost from all leadership. I would say from the senior one, 50%, going down 10%, not for the first line. The low income, we kept the same. The country is not helping in anything yet. So it's all coming for own resources.
Wow.
Not helping. It's a lot of money for us. It's really a lot when you employ so many people. But MAS has a very strong culture, and we walk the talk and talk the walk. So it's not just to say you are sustainable and you take care. I want to tell you, remind you that MAS was elected as the best employee of the country for the last few years, and the first one from the private sector, although we're employing about 40,000 people in the country. Wow. which is not an easy task. So, and for sure you freeze jobs, you let go if people want to go, you do the minimum, stopping capex, stopping everything that's not essential. I mean, all the ABC, moving to 100 days cash flow management on a weekly basis, borrow money from the bank as much as we can. As we know, in this time, the cash is, I call it the oxygen, right? It's all the days we were working together, Tony, some 14 years ago or so. Yeah. Because we are in this, what you call, this is a new verb, the VUCA situation, right? You're using this, I believe, already, right? The VUCA.
VUCA, yeah.
The volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, which is exactly related to what we're doing, right? So
exactly my life is VUCA.
But to tell you, when you are capable to adjust and to do the right thing, that's great. I used to say, you know, one of the basic rule in the battlefield, you always want to be on the move. Better the right way than the wrong way. But even better the wrong way than no way. Because if you don't go anywhere, you already die. The bullet, the missile, the rocket is on the way to you. When you're on the move, you have a chance to survive. So in this situation, just do nothing. This means that you sign your death future certificate. Paul, it's done.
I think you can see we get along because Eliaz has the same mindset as we do. It's a very, you know, restructuring. He has very colorful expressions about it, but we actually it's very similar to how we approach it.
I love the military concepts applied to leadership.
He was a military. So
right.
we have a little bit more time.
But don't forget that I have to work with a lot of different nationalities, even in DIM, 8 different countries, and the best way to convey messages is by examples that everybody understands.
Yeah.
So absolutely. You won't.
Tony and I have the same challenges. Yeah.
Yeah. So Eliaz, we have a little bit more time. How about on the personal side? How have you dealt with this with your family, your community? How in the country? How's been the experience at a personal level?
Personal level, believe it or not, I'm feeling very well. And I understand it because I used to much tougher life before. So the ones that pass part of his life in the valley can enjoy the mountains. The ones that was born on the mountains never understand what's going in the valley. He has a difficult to adjust.
Love it.
When I saw,
gotta love it, right?
So many good nuggets here. I love it.
Writing them down? You're writing them down?
Yeah.
When you be in the battlefield and I saw people dying near me, I was lucky to stay alive. So what's the issue? And if I need to remember it, my mother is still alive. She's an Holocaust survivor.
Wow.
So I asked her, Mom, how are you doing? She was born 1933 in Poland. So when the war broke out, she was exactly 6 years old. She was hiding with her father, parents, along the wall, under pig, etc. They saved. They came to Israel after the war. So she's in a retirement place for elderly people, right? So I said, Mom, how are you doing? She said, it's great. I said, what do you mean great? So listen, in the Second World War, I was hiding behind a pig house. They got a place under the pig so the German won't find them. I didn't have light, we didn't have food, and we didn't know what's going on. Now I have food, I have light, I have television, I know what's going on. So what's so bad? Nothing so bad. It's all relative. So you find that things relative in life, and I believe you guys, when you speak to somebody that went bankrupt once, you know how to manage things. The ones that never saw challenges in life, she is much more fragile. It's not because they're bad people, it's about experience. So to the point, we kept ourselves very busy in the beginning. Also in Israel, say stay at home, stay at home. So even the kids, we didn't let come in. Only the last few days, even we are not hugging and touching. We're staying like 2 meters. We just finished dinner. So big table, everybody take another corner, not touching too much. I went to see my mother from distance, with no touch. So doing the safety stuff that we need. Busy, a lot of Zoom, Blue Jean, call, boards. Even suddenly I find people have more time. They don't have to travel. They don't have to be on the road. So the meeting get longer. Let's speak after tomorrow. So even you have more things to do, right? So it's even more engaging. I am under control of my wife, so the food is great. So I haven't lost, I think, 3-4 kilos. Most of the people gaining weight. So you do some sport at home. I'm very balanced. I'm sleeping well, go to sleep late. So I feel as good as always. I don't feel that I'm paying an extra price. The only things that make it painful when I see really people that are challenging. So we have a family challenge. My son has a small hotel, I think I told you, a boutique hotel in Tel Aviv. So he about 6 months ago started an extension of the hotel. It's about $2 million investment. And the crisis came, so it's a bit, hotel are closed, all closed, right? So zero revenue, the wave come, you go below the wave, let the wave go and we'll be after it. So physically and mentally, I'm, as you know, when you met Nitza once, we are now 44 years together. So it's difficult to find humanness to fight for. So when you get it, but you get adjustment, expectation is there. So really, I can't complain. I'm not missing airplane. I think in 25 years, this is now my 4th month not going to an airport. It's not that I'm missing it, but that's fine. we started now to meet people. The country started to open a little bit, less kind of panic, I would say. But I'm great, good shape. We're gaining experience, so we can say we have also the Corona medal on the chest.
Paul, have you the Peloton's gotten you to be more in shape? I see you look like you're in good shape.
No,
and keeping them off. No,
it's just a short haircut. High and tight, military style. Eliaz, you like that? High and tight, right?
Yeah, for sure. a lot of technology will come to life. I hope not too much, because we still have to be human. I don't think there is replacement for the human side, but technology can help in many things. And I know even the medical, how do you do what you do, etc. So it will be really, even in apparel to a certain extent, but in all industries. And if I look to the future and what the future bringing us, I can see the notion of service, etc., will impact our life big time, and also consumption, by the way. So back to what Tony raised before, I believe when we'll do more e-commerce, Tony, people will buy less. I'm generalizing, because when you buy on the web, you buy normally what you need. When you are in the shop, you have the impulse buy.
I don't agree. I don't agree with you there. I think that once you have the ability to buy, the impulse, and you get used to that, you buy more. So
I meant something else, Tony. I didn't mean the web as such, but in apparel, for example, right? For commodities, basics, things etc. It will grow, will continue, no doubt. The impulse buy for fashion, for touch, for smell. I think the physical store, whatever, the experience is different.
I absolutely agree. And what I think, and this is still the area that I think is not yet solved, is how do you have an online medium channel that will allow you to have that similar experience? Because luxury is still bought in the store. I would say you can't generalize commodity and luxury anymore. I would say luxury and maybe not commodity and maybe things that you would buy, Lululemon, Zara, all these things. People are used to now buying them, online. They're not having to go to the store. But if you want to buy that watch, or you want to buy, the very expensive pair of shoes, you're going to want it. Part of the purchase of the thing you want is the experience in the store and talking to the person and all that.
Two vector, Tony. I believe there are two vectors. One, what you just said, the experience. A second, the security, safety, that it's original and not camouflage or cheating or something tricky. But it's the same logic. We have all Netflix, but still cinema exists, right?
For now.
We have takeaway and we have restaurant and we have kitchens that we're paying a lot of rent or mortgage or whatever for the kitchen, but we go out to restaurant. So we will have this dual.
That's one of the things I miss in the lockdown is being able to just have a social evening and going out with friends or going out with family. Eliaz, really great to see. And as always, as I said, you're going to share with us your philosophy, your expressions, your approach. You're going to cover all the territories. So I think it's been a very interesting discussion. And
I think, honestly, you had some great points, some great perspectives, some great nuggets of wisdom, some great quotes. Awesome. Really nice to know you and appreciate you spending the time with us. It was great.
Pleasure, guys.